Cameo. Sadie LaRue never missed a local estate sale in her area. She didn't want to miss out on the chance to snag some new antique jewelry or any other trinkets for her shop. Sadie's shop, LaRue, has been passed down through several generations of LaRues over the years. The shop has a reputation for being very classy, vintage, and unique. She's very particular about the pieces she chooses for the displays. As Sadie's car approaches the estate sale property, Sadie's belly was filled with butterflies from excitement, though tinged with sadness because the owner recently passed away. Sadie happened to know the woman well. It was the widow Woodward's home. Widow Woodward often wore a beautiful cameo necklace, which Sadie admired very much and knew it was worth a small fortune. She was hoping that the widow left the necklace to the estate so that she could possibly purchase it. The widow's home was filled with many beautiful items. There were at least 10 other folks shopping around the property. Sadie browsed all throughout the massive home, admiring all the things that were left behind by Widow Woodward. Sadie kept a sharp eye out for the cameo necklace, looking all around every nook and cranny of the house along the way. She made her way up a staircase that led to a landing with 4 bedrooms. Once at the top, she realized she was alone up there. 3 of the 4 bedrooms were open for people to rummage through, but one of the doors remained closed. Sadie's curiosity got the best of her, and she found herself turning the knob to the closed door and creaking it open very slowly, as not to make too much noise. This seemed to be the widow's bedroom. All of the furniture was still in place, but covered, and all the rest of her things were neatly piled around different areas of the room. Sadie peeked into one of the old boxes, and a small jewelry box caught her eye. She quietly and nervously picked it up and peeked inside to see if it contained the cameo necklace. There were a few pretty pieces of jewelry, but no cameo. Suddenly a booming voice startled Sadie, causing her to accidentally drop the jewelry box on the hardwood floor. She spun around to see one of the realtors standing in the doorway. "Hey, excuse me, ma'am. I believe the items in this room may be off limits." Sadie responded, "I'm very sorry for wandering in here, sir. Please let me at least pay for the jewelry box that I broke. There's a couple other items inside as well. How much do you want?" The realtor thought about it for a moment and said, "You know what? Why not? $50 fair enough?" Sadie quickly handed the man $50, said thank you very much, and then scurried down the steps and fled from the widow Woodward's home and hopped in her car to head back to LaRue. What the realtor didn't know was that when the jewelry box hit the floor, a false bottom popped open inside the jewelry box, revealing the cameo necklace Sadie was so hoping to find. When she scooped the box up off the floor, she re-hid the cameo before paying him the money. That's why she left in such a rush. Sadie sped back to LaRue to oogle her new antique jewelry treasures she purchased. The bracelet, rings, and brooches were beautiful, but nothing unique that she hadn't seen many times before in her shop. The cameo necklace was something special. It was beautifully crafted with onyx and bone. It was also adorned with small diamonds. It is an exquisite piece, dating back to circa 1880, though the chain had been replaced somewhere between 1920 and 1930. Truly, just a magnificent piece of jewelry, she thought to herself. She examined and cleaned up all the new pieces and put them in their display cases for sale. After she was satisfied with her cases, she turned out most of the lights and closed the shop for the evening. She sat and admired the cameo necklace for several more minutes before slipping it over her head, grabbing her purse and keys, and heading home for the night. Once home and settled, she got into bed for the night, still wearing the Cameo necklace. She drifted off to sleep, grasping the necklace, feeling so proud of herself. Sadie tossed and turned all night long, having the most vivid and disturbing nightmares. She recognized one woman in the nightmares. It was the widow Woodward. She was holding the Cameo necklace in one hand and pointing to Sadie with the other. She then showed Sadie some horrific things. You see, there's a reason the widow was widowed. She murdered her late husband many years ago, strangled him to death in his sleep with her Cameo necklace. Sadie was then shown more horrific visions of cold-blooded murder by the women who have owned this necklace in the past. Any woman who was in possession of it killed their significant others while they slept, strangled to death in cold blood with a beautiful, priceless piece of jewelry. Sadie was forced to watch each and every victim of the Cameo and its owners all night long. She was completely shaken up by the time morning arose. She popped her eyes open to see that the sun was coming up and felt some relief, and that she was okay, and that it was just a bunch of bad, ominous dreams. Sadie reached up to see if she was still wearing the necklace, which to her surprise was now laying on the nightstand next to her bed. I must have taken it off and forgot, she thought to herself. She then slid her hand over towards her fiancé to see if he had woken up yet. John, you awake? You wouldn't believe the nightmares I had all night, babe. You wouldn't believe what these women did to their... Jonathan. She turned to look and saw her fiancé's lifeless, strangled body just lying there next to her. Sadie gasped and looked over at the Cameo necklace sitting on the stand, and a sadistic smile came across her face, and she said, "What have we done?" She picked the Cameo up, put it back on, got ready for the day, and headed to LaRue like nothing happened. Sadie LaRue proudly displayed that murderous Cameo necklace in the front window of LaRue for many years. That's where it remained until shortly after she passed away. In her will, she confessed to the murder of her husband and warned others of the power of the necklace, and that she requested to be buried with it to hopefully stop its deadly streak. Let's hope that she was actually buried with it. Be careful what you buy from estate sales, folks. The Cursed Paintings of Gerard Rouso. In 1982, a French chateau was purchased from a young American family. It had been abandoned for quite some time, and the family had been its first inhabitants in at least 50 years. The family spent its time and money to renovate the chateau, and they did so beautifully, restoring the 17th century manor almost to its original splendor. They waited to tackle the attic last, and during the renovation of it, they discovered a hidden compartment behind one of the walls, and behind it consisted of several paintings. They could tell they were quite old, but they were done by an artist they had never heard of before. In the corner of each painting, in red ink, the name Gerard Rouso was signed. Upon closer inspection, the family was taken aback by the paintings. They were disturbing. Many of the scenes that were depicted could only be described as hell, with twisted bodies and stretched, screaming faces. Even the paintings that depicted an ordinary scene like people in a park or a family in a home all showed the faces of the people screaming out in what seemed to be unimaginable pain. They cleaned off the paintings as best they could, removing God knows how many years of dust that had accumulated, and brought the paintings down from the attic and stored them in one of the many guest rooms, covering them with old sheets, since being so hard to look at. The mother of the young family was said to be quite disturbed by the paintings, claiming they gave off an eerie feeling whenever she was around them. The father of the young family, however, was very intrigued and wanted to find out, if he could, about the artist and at least find out if any of these paintings were worth any money. He searched the internet and came up empty regarding anything official, but found some alarming posts about Gerard Rouso being the devil's painter. Several posts described Gerard as a struggling artist during the mid-1700s, and rumor is that one night during a drunken bout of melancholia, over being rejected and ridiculed, he sat in the middle of his study in front of his fireplace and begged and pleaded for help. He fell to his knees, and in his desperation, he swore fealty and his soul to the devil. It is said when he spoke those words, he had a bottle of spirits in his hands, and after he spoke, he threw the bottle in the fireplace, and when he did, the fire raged, and out of the fire came the devil himself. It is said when the devil stood before Gerard, he showed him all the horrors of hell, and told him he would grant his request, but that the horrors he had showed him is what awaited, lifetimes of pain and suffering, and he told him that there was no set duration on granted request. It could last 50 years, or it could last 50 minutes, so make the most of this opportunity as you can. Gerard signed a contract with the devil in his own blood, and when the devil left, Gerard started to paint. He painted all the horrors he was shown. Portrait after portrait depicted the agonies of the underworld. That's all he painted at first. He couldn't get the images out of his mind. After weeks and several portraits of his future home, he walked the streets of the small town outside his chateau and found inspiration in the faces and the places that he passed. He painted several storefronts and people, but as he painted their portraits, the people's faces would stretch out in agony, like they were experiencing the horrors of hell, and the storefronts he painted were engulfed in flames and left in smoldering timbers from the hellfire. It is rumored Gerard's paintings were cursed, and it was said that all of his subjects that he painted were found, not long after, dead, with long stretched-out agonizing faces, and the storefronts that he painted were mysteriously destroyed. Gerard's body was later found hanging in his study. His mouth was stretched open in agony, like the faces in his paintings. It had only been 5 months since signing the contract with Beelzebub, and Gerard had only seen meager success in that span, but it was in death where he saw his most success. You see, one of Gerard Rouso's cursed paintings fetches quite the price on the black market, from devil worshippers to rare painting enthusiasts. Everyone wants a piece from the devil's painter. There's a disturbing rumor floating out there, though, that if you look at a Rouso painting long enough, you're never heard from again. Most people dismiss the rumor and purchase a Rouso whenever it hits the market. That last bit of news made the father very happy. Yes, he was disturbed at everything he had read, from Gerard making a deal with the devil inside his house, to the cursed paintings, and even Gerard hanging himself in the study. But the father didn't believe in curses, and most definitely didn't believe in the devil or any supernatural nonsense. He looked over the paintings and the next day contacted a local art dealer about what he and his family had found. He instructed the art dealer to send word out to interested parties that he had a significant Rouso collection and that he would like to sell it. A secret auction took place and the collection was sold. It's believed that the winning bid was somewhere in the millions, and the deal was to be completed in person at the chateau to exchange the money and the paintings. But when the day came to complete the deal, the buyer arrived at the chateau and knocked on the door, money in hand. There was no answer. He knocked and he knocked. Then the buyer searched the property and found nothing. He went back to the front door and tried to open it, which to his surprise did. He walked in carefully, and nothing seemed out of place. It just looked like a family lived in the home. He called out, and there was no answer. The family had disappeared, and they were never heard from again. The voices on the phone. When I was pregnant with my oldest daughter, Mike and I bought a house in the Catskill Mountains of upstate New York, in the middle of nowhere. We drove down winding roads for 40 minutes just to go grocery shopping, and most of our neighbors were only around in the summer or on holidays. It was a nice little house next to the creek, and in the kitchen, mounted on the wall, was an old-fashioned dial phone with a coiled cord. When we first moved in, I picked up the receiver and heard a quiet conversation between two women about hair dye. I didn't want to eavesdrop, so I said, "Hello? Who is this?" The lady stopped talking. Then one said, "Did you hear that?" "Yes. Is someone there?" "Hi, can you hear me?" I said. Then it was silent, no voices, just a faint dial tone. I quickly decided this old phone was somehow hooked up to an old-fashioned party line. After that, we used the phone very little, preferring our cordless phone hooked up in the other room. The handful of times I did use it, I could hear whispered voices in the background, always assuring the other person that the line sometimes picked up other calls. A year and a half passed, and we mostly forgot the phone was even there. Then in September of 1999, Hurricane Floyd passed through our area, leaving us without power and the road with large impassable trees blocking the way. Fortunately, we were already prepared. We had stored food and clean water in a paranoid frenzy for Y2K, and we desperately needed it all. We bathed in the creek, painted in the day, and played board games by candlelight while waiting for our power to be restored. After a week, the road was clear, but still no power, and it was getting tedious for Mike and me, though 1-year-old Chloe was loving it. I lamented that we couldn't call my sister as the cordless phone didn't work without electricity when we heard an unfamiliar ring. It was the wall phone in the kitchen. I raced to it, and I heard the faint voice of my sister. She was just checking in on us and invited us up to her place until our power came on. So off we went for 5 days, and when we returned, everything was back to normal. And I was so glad we had a hardwired phone that didn't rely on electricity. A couple of years passed, and the phone was mostly ignored, except by 3-year-old Chloe, who thought it would look better covered in sparkly stickers. The power went out at least once or twice a summer, usually just for a few hours. During one of these outages, Mike decided to try the phone in the kitchen to make his call, but it was dead. Concerned, he drove up the road to the local country store and called AT&T's service line. I believed it went something like this. "Hello? Yes, my phone has stopped working. Can I have your account number?" "Yes, it's 543-9331. "I don't see anything wrong here." "Well, we don't have any power right now." "Well, that would be the problem." "No, but we have an old-fashioned dial phone hooked up in the kitchen. It should still work." "I'm sorry, but according to our records, you have no phone in the kitchen." "Yes, we do. We've used it." "No, you don't. If you do, it's not connected through us." "Oh, okay." After this, Mike came home, walked into the kitchen, and pulled the phone off the wall. The only wire on it was about 3 inches long and attached to nothing. It never was hooked up. Do not hear those audios, please. Don't listen to those audios. Please. I don't care how brave and daring you are. Do not listen to those audios. Before you all start freaking out and questioning me, I would like to tell you myself what I am talking about. I use Reddit and Tumblr a lot more than it should be considered healthy. But well, when you're lonely like me and want to distract yourself from dark thoughts, you tend to do anything to distract yourself. It almost turned out to be the biggest mistake of my life. Now I know most of you will think, how will you even identify this post? Well, let me tell you everything from the beginning. A few years ago, there was a very famous social media influencer. I don't know his name, but his followers used to call him Rex, and that is what we're going to call him too. The story of Rex's life, from what I have heard, was very painful, but it never stopped him from creating entertaining posts and other adventurous stuff for the reaction of his followers. Rex's mother hated his father and cheated on him with his friend. His father loved his wife a lot, and the betrayal from his beloved friend and wife broke him so much that he took his life. Rex was close to his father, and his death broke him. He never forgave his mother, and after being able to fend for himself on his own, he left his childhood home and moved out to a big city. Rex had a deep interest in psychology. At the time he became famous, he was studying psychology at the university. Then one day, his post started to become very depressing. He did have some depressive and anxious outbursts in the past, but then he always went back to being his usual funny self. But this time, the followers could feel something was wrong. One particular post caught their attention. It was a scary post. It wasn't the first time he had posted something related to horror. As a psychology student, he did post things like that. But this freaked out the followers because it was really creepy. In that post, he said that his dad had returned and he was talking to him. The tone was so serious that it gave chills to the readers. They said that there was even an audio message at the end that contained the voice of Rex talking to an aged man. Rex called him his father. His father, who had been dead for 12 years, was talking to him, telling him that he never wanted to leave him, and now that he is back, they will be together. Of course, no one believed him. A few followers who listened to the audio many times claimed that the voice was very creepy. It sounded so lifeless that for one moment they all believed that it was really his father. The supposed voice actor got a lot of compliments. Rex had made a few very close friends there, and they had even met each other and collaborated many times. Then his posts stopped coming altogether. One friend in particular was very close to him and even lived in his city. He decided to visit him and check in on him. Rex lived in a scarcely populated neighborhood. He had a 2-story house surrounded by a lot of plantation. As his friend parked the car, he could sense something was wrong. The grass and the other plants had dried, and the floor at the entrance looked as if it hadn't been cleaned in a very long time. It felt colder here somehow, like there was nothing alive there. The worst thing was the stench of the rotting flesh coming from inside. His friend gagged and covered his mouth with his handkerchief. The door was locked, so he decided to break it. All the time he kept on shouting Rex's name. No one was there in the neighborhood either, as it was daytime. As he entered the house, the smell became so awful that it was becoming hard for him to not throw up. He took out his phone and decided to call the police. "Rex, where are you?" he kept yelling as he moved through the hallway and followed the path as the stench kept on getting worse. He reached the door of his room. The smell became so intense that his friend threw up just outside the door. He kicked open the door and screamed at the scene inside. Rex was lying dead on the floor of his room. His body had started to rot, and he could see maggots and other bugs appearing around it. He froze as he felt someone breathing on his neck. He could smell the foul stench on their breath. He swallowed and turned around, but found no one. As he turned again, he saw that the closet door was open, and he could see a trail of dried blood at the entrance. He moved to the closet and looked inside. To his horror, he saw the dead body of a woman, if he could even call it that. Her body had been brutally stabbed at various places. Her eyes had been gouged out, and her tongue had been cut. Her lower half had been burned. He jerked back and collided with someone. He thought it was a police officer, but as he turned, he found himself staring into his friend's eyes, who screamed and tried to choke him. He pushed him away and ran out of the room and fell into the arms of a police officer who had entered the house. He immediately passed out. When he awoke, later, he was questioned, and he told everything I told you, but of course no one believed him. The police and the doctors decided that maybe the poisonous gases of rotting flesh and the shock of seeing his best friend dead might have caused him hallucinations. In the post-mortem and further police investigation, it was found that he had murdered his mother. That woman was his mother, who was on a rare monthly visit to see her son. After killing her, he had taken his own life. This had happened 3 days before he had made his last post. All his followers were broken and frightened by the news. A few days later, a post was made through his account. It contained the same audio tape of his father and him talking, and another audio tape contained screams of a woman, presumably his mother, and a voice repeatedly telling her that she did this to herself, to their son, to them. It is said that the voice had sounded like the aged man, his father's. The font, the style, everything about the post was creepy, and the fact someone had posted it was the creepiest. The account had lost followers after his death, and some had blocked it after finding about the post and didn't hear the audios. Unfortunately, some did. Due to the mysterious reasons, all of the listeners died strangely within 7 days, and after a few days of their death, that post appeared on their page. Some police officers were told to take it as evidence in the case. It was said that the few officers who heard the tape died within 7 days due to mysterious reasons. The website deleted the cursed, yeah, that's what we call them, blogs. But somehow the post had already circulated. His friend and some of his other friends decided to do something about it. They created posts to make people aware about all of it. The post starts with a line, written in bold characters. "I thought you loved me, baby." Then it contains the 2 cursed audio tapes. If you see this, do not read it further. Refresh the page, block, report, do whatever, but do not read it further. Delete the app if you have to, or even deactivate the account, but do not go further. Some people tried to create similar posts like that, but trust me, you will know, because when you see it, you will feel the air chill around you, or you will feel like something bad is going to happen. Last month, an internet friend of mine saw it and told me and our other friends, we like creepy stuff, about it. He reblogged it. I didn't see it because my Wi-Fi wasn't good that day and I was too exhausted for social media. Then I got busy with schoolwork and forgot about it. I opened my social media website after a few days and saw a lot of notifications. All of my friends who saw that post died under mysterious conditions. One had a sibling who was younger to us. He had even sent me the images of his dead sibling, pleading me not to read that post, and on seeing them I threw up then and there. As I opened my activity area
and started going through more posts to find some more details. I felt it. A chilling sensation, as if someone was breathing down my neck, and the urge to read the post that was present in front of me got worse. But I deleted all the notifications and logged out. This is the first time I am posting something after that incident. Governments have seen to it that the post is taken down. Media is not allowed to talk about it to prevent the spread of panic, and most officials and media persons don't even know about all this. It has become an internet legend, but it is true. Although it still appears on the blog of the person who died after seeing it. Some say it can still be found on the dark web. I am requesting you all to not listen to the audios. If you care about your life and your loved ones, call it superstition or blind faith, but some things are just not in our hands, and we must adhere to the rules.
I would like to give a heartfelt thank you to the special friends of the channel. Your generosity means the world to me. If you would like to support the channel, the link is below in the description. Also, please send me your stories to duchessofdarkness27@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram at duchess.ofdarkness or Twitter at duchessofdarkn2. I want to thank you all for your support, your kindness, and your encouragement. I appreciate it so very much. Until next time.